welcome to episode 49 of the MMG podcast. It is Chris, and of course, as always, I am with Go Cubs.
Find yourself someone who talks about you as much as Chris Collinsworth talks about Pat Mahomes on Sunday Night Football.
To be fair to Chris Collinsworth, who doesn't want to talk about Patrick Mahomes on a Sunday night? I mean, come on.
He is a fan of ketchup, which I am a fan of now.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the thing, but yes, I get it. I understand. Patrick Mahomes is valid. I think he's valid.
Yeah. Welcome to the end of Week 17 podcast.
Yes, that's all it is. It's just the end of Week 17. We're gonna talk about the Week 17 games, and then we're gonna go away and never come back.
You don't need to talk to us ever again.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Wild card weekend, baby.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed already by the logo on the screen, during playoff time, I always like to add in the wild card or whatever playoff thing is happening onto the podcast thumbnail. So yes, as you can see, it is wild card weekend. I think wild card weekend is up there in my favorite football times a year.
It is the most stressful.
Well, especially for you this year.
Well, yeah, it's double the amount of anxiety for me this year. Usually the anxiety just comes with the expectations of getting picks correct.
Yes.
Which is really only something that I care about in the context of this podcast and just my personal pride.
Yeah, of course. And divisional weekend's fun too. I think people underrate divisional weekend because wild card weekend's what kicks it off, and it's sandwiched between championship weekend. But divisional weekend, pretty fucking kick ass.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, last year, the Saturday games were all right. I mean, there's a nice close game between the Eagles, Falcons, but then the Patriots blew the fucking doors off of Tycoons.
Yep.
And then,
but you can't upstage the Minnesota Miracle.
The Minnesota Miracle, the Jacksonville Jaguars just
dethroning the Patriots or the Steelers.
Yeah.
Close.
That made it the Steelers. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before on the podcast. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville, and we'll talk about this even further in a little bit. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville killed the Killer Bees.
Yeah, Jacksonville destroyed the Steelers and then went back to mediocrity. They rose to fame and acclaim just to destroy the Steelers organization from the inside.
Yeah.
That's what happens when Big Ben throws 5 interceptions in one game.
Yeah, this is what happens, and it was there's a lot being talked about this week about the Steelers, but I think everyone wants to kind of take a break from that. The Steelers don't need a spotlight when they're eliminated from the playoffs. Oh shit!
But hey, Mask's senior spoilers, but Antonio Brown was the first person eliminated on that.
It was you know what, we'll get to that, but that is the most hilarious thing about this entire fucking saga, is that in the middle of everything, the first appearance of Antonio Brown since everything hit the fan was in a blue hippo suit on The Masked Singer. Like, what the
on a terrible Fox reality show.
What in the world is happening? It is wonderful. But anyways, we'll get to wildcard weekend in just a little bit. But of course, we do have some business to take care of as we close out the regular season. And we're gonna start out with our game of the week, our final game of the week for Week 17, for the regular season rather. And it will be Baker Mayfield having gone to Baltimore against the Ravens. And this game, at first, it looked like the Ravens were going to put it away. There was a call that looked like Lamar Jackson jumped the entire Browns pile and got a touchdown, but fumbled it, and then one of the Browns, I believe it was Peppers, that picked it up and began running it all the way down, but it was called that he got the touchdown. So the whistle was blown, and if the fumble did not cross the plane before it was fumbled rather, then of course that's gonna be that ends up being the whatever that ended up being a touchdown for them, or that would have been called a touchdown for them. But they reviewed it, ended up being a fumble. The Browns kind of lost a chance of getting a touchdown there. But that was still a momentum swinger in that game, because at that point the Ravens were up pretty big on them, and then the Browns and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis freaking Landry, man, who had an outstanding year, and he's kind of putting a staple into being the number one wide receiver for that team for sure.
Yeah.
And they had some magnificent. Baker Mayfield threw some magnificent deep passes. Jarvis Landry had these ridiculous catches, and at one point, while they're trying to, it was their final drive, trying to score before the Ravens ended up taking the ball back from them. Jarvis Landry had this insane catch where he kind of caught the ball, and as he was going to the ground, he like bent his whole hand to keep possession of the ball. It was one of those circus catches. It was absolutely insane, and ultimately, the Steelers, meanwhile, were sitting on Heinz Field. They just beat the Bengals barely. And they were watching on the video board the Browns potentially trying to win it and get the Browns a winning record for the year, and the Steelers trying to get into the playoffs would get in with the Browns win. But then CJ Mosley, the Alabama kid, Oklahoma lost badly to Alabama in the Orange Bowl, and once again it was another loss for Oklahoma as Baker Mayfield threw the interception to the Alabama player, and the Ravens clinched a spot not only in the playoffs but also the champions of the AFC North. You watched this game. What was your main takeaway from the game?
My main takeaway was Hugh Jackson is the worst head coach of this past year.
I mean, I think it's even beyond that, but sure.
Yeah. Of the past maybe decade, maybe all time. Who's counting?
Maybe.
But look, I was really rooting for the Ravens hard in this because I like the Ravens. I really did not want the Steelers to be in the playoffs. It was a combination of mainly both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, Baker Mayfield broke the rookie touchdown record with 27, didn't play the first couple games, and didn't have a ton of preseason work or reps with the first team offense because Hugh Jackson thought it was safer to go with Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
And not nourish the talent that you spent your second consecutive first round draft pick on.
Right.
So fuck Hugh Jackson.
Yes.
I'm glad that the Browns actually have a team now and have a quarterback who's going to do great things for them.
Yeah.
Also, the Ravens, nobody wants to play them right now.
There's the cliche. I love it.
Yeah, but it's right.
No, you're absolutely right. I feel like there's always one team that's like that. I just was waiting for one of us to say it. I was probably gonna say it about the Colts or something later on, so it's okay.
Yeah, but with how weird the Ravens' offense is, in terms of how much it rushes the ball and still gets some passing going on, and then how literally elite the defense is.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best in the league, like the number one rated in the league.
Yeah.
They are going to be hard to stop and hard to score against.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this also may be the only year that the Ravens have this chance because the defense is old, and the rush heavy offense might get figured out quicker than this RPO stuff did this past year.
Right.
So
yeah.
So this would be the run for the Ravens, I think, if they wanted to, or if this may be the Ravens' only chance, is what I'm saying. So I'm glad they got in.
Yeah.
But both teams have good rookie franchise quarterbacks on their hands.
Yeah, you got good battle in the future with Mayfield and Jackson playing each other twice every year. Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
for sure.
the thing about the this game was that the Ravens, their defense has been great all year, but the big thing that would be concerning for me as is someone who would like to see the Ravens succeed. Um, I get worried about the secondary a little bit because, and this has been an issue in the past for them, where they've had such a strong defensive front, but their secondary was lacking. And this year, it has been one of those years that they've done a really good job with it. But very often against the Browns in this game, what Baker Mayfield had not a lot of time to throw, but had a lot of open wide receivers. And that's kind of part of the reason why he was able to make as many throws as he did in this game and able to come back. They kind of, it reminded me a lot of some of the Bears games that happened this year, because it was where they come out strong and they build up this lead, but then all of a sudden the team, they kind of sit on the ball a little bit, and they try to not play too all out near the end of the game, and they let the other team kind of catch up or begin to kind of build back a lead. And most of the time they take care of business, both the Bears and the Ravens in some aspect. And the Ravens were able to take care of business, but it got sneaky close for the Ravens, and so that would be one thing I'm concerned about if I'm Baltimore. And like we've talked about it with the Bears as well. But just generally, it seems like the defensive teams, they can hold out for a while, but you need to be able to get your offense going and put the dagger in these teams. Don't let them have an opportunity to come back. That's something that they're going to have to learn when they get to the playoffs. They can't play it safe. It's time to go all out. But it was great. It was a really fun game. I enjoyed when we had this. I would have been heartbroken for Baltimore if they had to go through another year of an Ohio quarterback taking them out of the playoffs at the very last minute. That would have been rough to see, but luckily they've overcome that demon for now. And yeah, so good for the Ravens and Browns. Be proud. 7-1. That's pretty good for a team that just got completely obliterated last year, and 0-16 and everything uncertainty, and you know how
last year.
Yeah.
I said the Browns would have to go 0-16 before they could rebuild. And they have rebuilt and will continue to go up from here, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I would like to...
AFC North, I think, is going to be a three-way battle next year between the Ravens, Browns, and the Steelers, just because they're still the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree, because I don't know what the future of the Bengals holds right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Vance Joseph.
Oh, jeez. Or fucking Hugh Jackson. That's still a possibility.
No.
They fucking interviewed him.
No.
They interviewed him. He might be back.
Shit.
He might be back. Anyways, we'll talk.
I'm so sorry, Bengals fans everywhere.
We'll talk about that in a second. Blowout of the week. We'll just touch upon this briefly. The Chiefs really took it to the Ravens. It was a 38-3 game, I believe, was the ending score there. Chiefs claimed the number 1 seed, and I got nervous about this one because I was just like, imagine if the fucking Raiders beat the Chiefs. And then the Chargers, Chargers also ended up winning this weekend, but what if the Chargers blew it and then fucking New England would be back as the number 1 seed? Like, I did have, like, the doomsday scenario in my mind, but luckily, the Chiefs did take care of business. Patrick Mahomes had yet another fun game. I think this was the game that he breached 5,000 passing yards on the year.
And 50 touchdowns.
And 50 touchdowns in this game.
The third player ever to do that.
And so I love Drew Brees, and I really wanted to see Drew Brees get his MVP. I think that
with 5,000 passing yards and 50 touchdowns, I would be shocked and honestly disappointed if Mahomes didn't get it at this point.
I agree. I think that he's just had the better year overall. I don't think that there has been one game where he's really struggled. You know, I mean, even like you go back even to the losses, the Seahawks game, he didn't really play that badly. You know, the Patriots game, he was part of the reason why the team was still in it. You know, so there wasn't really like a bad Mahomes game yet, and I hope that does not come in the playoffs for the Chiefs' sake moving forward. Raiders, we'll get back to you. You got some news for the general manager front this week. Uh, team
I don't want.
I don't want Team Chaos of the week, and it goes to the Panthers, who, despite not having Cam Newton out there, and of course just playing, they did play against Teddy Bridgewater and not Drew Brees, but they took it to the Saints. They had a really nice game offensively, and the Saints' first team defense was on the field, and they despite like Cameron Jordan and a few other players out there, they were playing well, but the defense as a whole just gave up so many points to a backup quarterback.
Yep.
And so
the Panthers were close to putting Christian McCaffrey in as quarterback.
That was, I know, that was close. It was yeah. Kyle Allen, he left at near the end of the game. Garrett Gilbert ended up stepping in. I believe I'm pretty sure is the guy's name. And then if he got hurt, God forbid, then Christian McCaffrey would have to be the quarterback, which that would have not been, or that would have been interesting to see, but would be kind of
been fun.
But after losing, not having not won since prior to the Steelers game, I don't even remember what game they last won, but it was before that Thursday Night Football game. They to finish off with a nice blowout win over the number 1 seed and potentially best team in the NFL at the moment. Pretty nice, regardless of who was playing. Like that's a nice note to finish off of. And luckily David Tepper did the right thing and kept Ron Rivera in as head coach as well. So the Panthers go into the offseason, improve their talent. They'll be back next year. I think they'll get there. We'll see what they do in the offseason.
Yeah.
What's your most surprising team for the very last time? Most surprising team.
For the very last time, my most surprising team, just so I can talk about them one last time, is the Buffalo freaking Bills. This was a really good year for rookie quarterbacks, I think. Just in general.
I agree.
And the one that I think has made the most impact on their team could be argued Baker, just because Baker is an elite talent. Could be argued Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson changed how the offense. He just changed the offense.
Yeah, he brought winning back to the Ravens. They remember what the whole they were. They were there.
Yeah,
they almost
they were an all. He brought winning back to them. But I don't think the unprecedented levels of scoring of the Bills actually scoring points was anticipated by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Allen was a big contributor to that. So Josh Allen is going to be good for the Bills in the future. We'll see if they can build around him at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they will, because they're the Bills. But I feel like a playoff game is more next season than it was for them last season. And last season they still managed to make it in. So
yeah, I think about him as a quarterback, and he had a good year, but there is also some weird throws that he made that needs to be improved, where he can throw it. He can throw the ball. I mean, that was kind of like the joke in the offseason leading up to his draft, was that he could just throw it out of the stadium and the ball would be in space. Like he has the arm. It's the accuracy that's the issue, and it still needs to be improved on. But considering the weapons the Bills had, and there were not many for him and the team as a whole, to have had a relatively solid finish to the season, and to really beat up on the Dolphins, who were still looking for a playoff berth as of week 16. That's not something to like look down upon. It was a pretty impressive win. So we'll see. But I agree with you. I think the only quarterback you could really say that didn't have like a season of not showing much right now.
A season of not sucking.
A season of being like, well, we don't know for sure if he's gonna be the future of the franchise. I would say Rosen, who weirdly enough was the one that everyone thought would be pro ready. So I don't know if that says more about him or the Cardinals as a whole.
I'm gonna go with the Cardinals.
I would lean that way too right now. I would like to see a second
And
year with him.
It's unfortunately going to take a little. We'll probably talk about this later. It's going to take a little longer for the Cardinals just because of all the turnaround they're going through right now.
Yeah, for sure. My team, my most surprising team was the Detroit Lions, and I guess maybe this is maybe not too surprising considering that Aaron Rodgers did leave this game with a concussion. Which, by the way, Rodgers, why did you want to play this game? I know it was a pride thing, but man, you got concussed. Was it worth it? Was it really worth it? That in the end of the day, anyways. But the Lions came out and even just as shitty of a season as they had, they just took it to the Packers and solidified a second sweep in a row of the Packers. They have not lost to the Packers since 2016. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
oh shit.
I think there's a lot of questions about Matthew Stafford. You know, how long he's going to be able to stick around with this team, because there's, you know, he's such an on and off quarterback.
And this was his worst season since he started.
Yeah, and Jim Bob Cooter was just fired.
Yeah, we lose the best offensive coordinator in football. But yeah, Lions are going to be in a weird spot the next couple years, I think.
Matt Patricia had one of the worst rookie head coaching years, even worse than Steve Wilkes. Yeah, in my opinion, and
because Matt Patricia had a team.
It's not only that though. You had the reports from even before the season that the players were not in line with his methods of playing outside, which was or practicing outside in the cold, or running laps all the time, and which I'm like, all right, well maybe that's just the players not really being into just maybe being a little more complaining about maybe the harder work that you have to do, but
then you get reports that Matt Patricia shows up late to his own goddamn meetings.
Right, exactly.
And it makes the fact that the Packers lost to them even fucking worse.
That, and even, then he's already getting testy with media. At one point during the season, all of a sudden a guy was asking him a question, and Matt Patricia just ranted to him and be like, "Can you fucking sit up straight? I don't want you come in here, you be laid back all the fucking time." And he didn't curse or anything, but he was just like, he was just like, "Sit up straight," and it was kind of just a weird okay, Matt. This, I guess this is that's fine.
What are you trying to compensate for?
So I don't know. And we were talking about this before the podcast. It makes this season with Matt Patricia maybe appreciate Jim Caldwell a little bit more, because I felt like he, at least with the roster he had, he kept on going 9-7 and just having these mediocre years, but not terrible years with the Lions. And this was the first terrible year for the Lions in a while.
And Lions were still playoff contenders in week 15,
right?
Last year,
right? And they were in the playoffs in 2014 and 2016. They Caldwell, he had them in it. He made them competitive, but I get that
Matt Patricia took a step backwards.
Yeah, I don't really know. Right? You then want to ask was it really Belichick that made those defenses great for the Patriots? Or whoever else was behind there.
Or he just doesn't have a good coaching tree, and Andy Reid coaching tree is the one that we all need to look at.
That's the GOAT right there.
That's the GOAT.
What's your most disappointing team?
My most disappointing team is the Seattle Seahawks. They won the game against the Cardinals, but they won the game by a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
The Arizona Cardinals, they currently have the number 1 draft pick, because they are the worst team in the NFL. They just fired their first-year head coach, something that the 49ers recently have done, where they've had a 1-year coach turnaround, and that coach is now coaching UCLA, a team that is also doing poorly. Seahawks should have been so much better at this game than they were. I don't know if it was the fact that oh, we're already in the playoffs, we're not going to play as hard. If it was the uh if it was the because I'm pretty sure they had all their starters. Yeah, so I'm disappointed that the Seahawks didn't win by more.
Yeah.
I still think they'll do okay in the playoffs, but it was a weird series of events, or a weird game that I wish the Seahawks would have done better, so that the decision that I'm going to have to make in 20 minutes or so would be a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel like you could say it about both of the teams playing in that game though too, considering that the Cowboys played very closely with the Giants.
Yeah.
I always chalk it up to at some points as just being.
But the Cowboys didn't play all their starters.
No, they did. They played their starters all the way to the end,
Except Zeke.
except Zeke, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I do think that with Seahawks though, and having as many players as they did out there, it is concerning a little bit how they played. But sometimes it's also like just one of those things where you clinched a playoff berth. It's week 17. The only thing that will change for you is that like which place you're gonna go, either Dallas or Chicago, and it's just like you know. I don't know how much. Week 17 is just always it's very difficult to judge unless you're at a point of having to win that week. Like that's like I could say like I'm impressed by the Panthers win over the Saints and how the Saints played against they played the first string defense and stuff of the Saints, but we don't know how many of those players didn't really give a shit. So it's tough. It's a tough circumstance to analyze it, but it was a weird game, and the Seahawks.
I'm also gonna throw a disappointing nod. I don't think you chose this team. I forgot which team you chose.
I chose the Steelers.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna throw a disappointing nod that I should have chosen instead, but didn't think about them, to the Vikings. The Vikings are back to being mediocre. I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins. I don't know if it's their offensive staff, but this game was supposed to be competitive, and the Vikings were still trying to play for a playoff spot, and they couldn't do anything against the Bears defense. It was pathetic on the Vikings standpoint. Just leaving it at that.
Yeah, the Vikings they had the opportunity to get in with a win-in scenario, and they blew it, and it just goes to show you the whole season.
They didn't even play it close.
Right.
It was not a close game. The Bears dominated. The Vikings just seemed like they gave up, and it was sad to see for a team that was considered Super Bowl contenders at the start of the season.
Right. I just and the whole thing with Kirk Cousins is that they added him to improve their team, and it has not been done nothing but to kind of deter them, and it makes you think, is Case Keenum the one that got away?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like they had the perfect situation, unless that was just Pat Shurmur. Maybe it was him that got away, and that kind of hurt them. I don't know. There is a lot of questions there for this team in the offseason that should have been better than what their record was, and it puts a hot seat a little bit on Mike Zimmer, who I think is a great coach, but just it did not deliver with the talent that they had. Running game never really got going either. It was a lot of just disappointments overall for the season for the Vikings. They'll have an off season to kind of adjust and figure everything out. My disappointing team, like I said earlier, was the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they also won their game, but barely. And this was more of my disappointing team because it had to do with just the other absurdity that came out afterwards, because we knew that Antonio Brown was dealing with some sort of knee injury going into Sunday, and that was part of the reason that he was left out of the game. and that was so everyone was just like, oh, okay. And most people thought the knee injury was bad enough where we kind of were surprised that he was still being considered to play as of Sunday, but he was ruled inactive. Come Monday, reports start coming out that Antonio Brown supposedly did not have a knee injury, and part of the reason for him holding out was because of an altercation he had with Ben Roethlisberger, where Big Ben apparently was frustrated by the way Antonio Brown was running the route, that he spiked the ball on the ground, and this kind of, I guess, pissed off Antonio Brown enough to chuck a ball in the general vicinity rather of Big Ben, and it has since started a media firestorm where Big Ben has had to go on his radio show and be like, "Oh no, it never happened. I don't know what these people are talking about." And in Antonio Brown, he's like stirring the pot on social media. He's like giving heart faces to George Kittle from the Niners.
It's so fucking petty.
It's incredible. And there was one guy that criticized him on ESPN, Ryan Clark, I think was his name, and I forget what the criticism was, but Antonio Brown then accused him of being Uncle Tom, which is like, that's pushing it a little bit. I don't know. Like a lot. I don't know why you would go ahead and accuse him of that, but I don't know. The whole situation was, it just was just a tipping point of what has been a very tough Steelers season, where they started out on a bad foot, but you always expect these from the good teams. They ended up going on a nice hot streak, and it really came to a head against the Panthers. They blew them out, and then the weeks after that, they barely beat the Jaguars. They got upset by the Broncos. They lost to the Chargers. They got upset by the Raiders on a banana peel split, essentially. They somehow beat the Patriots and then lost with some bad officiating calls against them, but still lost on a fake punt to the Saints, and then had to barely beat the Bengals, and we're hoping that the Browns would get them a victory to get them in the postseason.
You know you're fucked when the Browns are your ticket to the playoffs.
It was completely, the season is on them, is on their locker room for being as dysfunctional as it was. And the one person that I really think that should continue getting blame beyond Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Mike Tomlin is Big Ben, because I feel all the time, I just see this guy calling his other teammates out and never putting blame on himself. And he does this all the fucking time. It's victim blaming, and boy, have we seen him victim blame in the past as well. So I am just
territory, my friend.
I'm just saying
territory. But
I'm just saying that Big Ben, as he's done this before, and he just continuously does it, and he never gets called out for it. And he deserves to be. He is absolutely ridiculous how many times he just goes out of his way to just never own up to the dysfunction around him, and that maybe he has been the one that has been causing some of the dysfunction as well. So
maybe is I'm the one who's out of touch. No, it's the other players who are wrong.
Right, exactly. Le'Veon Bell, he made his choice, and maybe it was selfish, but that was his choice to sit out the season and maybe get a better deal in the offseason, which will come because he's a good player. Mm-hmm. It's gonna work out for him. Antonio Brown, yeah. I won't give any excuses for his behavior. Maybe he was that. It doesn't, certainly the way that it has been reported, had it been justified, but maybe Big Ben is hard to work with. And Mike Tomlin, there is a little bit of fire underneath him right now, because it has been for a few seasons now, but definitely now. Like, he needs to get his locker room in order. Otherwise, I don't know how much longer that the Steelers are gonna want to keep him around.
And the Steelers, they like just as an organization, and the NFL's changed, but when they hire a head coach, they stick with that head coach.
Yeah.
I think Mike Tomlin, is the 4th head coach in Steelers history.
It's crazy. It's utterly
Yeah.
insane how
So the fact that they are thinking of getting rid of him is a big deal.
I don't think there's any major reports out there that have said that they would want to get rid of him, but it's a question that Steelers fans have really been clamoring for a while, that people just think that the days of winning with him are done, and with the culture of the locker room in its current state, apparently just a lot of drama within the players themselves and not really being able to trust each other, then it may be time to change things from the top. But I don't know. I still think he is a good coach. I do wonder about how they're going to approach this offseason, because the rumor is out there that Antonio Brown could get traded.
There's a 75% chance, I think, that Antonio Brown's with the Steelers next year.
I think so too, especially because of the money. But it's the fact that it's out there means that maybe there's only one more year with Antonio Brown, which is kind of like what happened in 2017, where you were kind of, or even this season, or rather, when entering with Le'Veon Bell, where everyone's just like, well, this may be the last season of Le'Veon Bell with the Steelers, and well, he kind of last season ended up being his last season with the Steelers. So there you go. Very interesting situation, but they are my most disappointing team. We'll talk more about the Steelers, what they should look for and help change for the offseason when we get to the Pro Bowl. That will be our week to recap all of the teams that have been eliminated, and what they need to do to have a good offseason and all that. That'll be during the Pro Bowl week. But for now, we move forward. We want to go over our picks, the pick standings for one last time. And the regular season competition ends, and I am victorious, 59-58, and it was
with the points.
But the record is completely tied,
which is incredible.
It was a very nice job by both of us to be tied at this point.
Yeah. The Packers fucked me over.
Yeah. That's really what
they could have get to playoffs, but Aaron Rodgers gave me one last fuck you, but it wasn't by him being good. No, it couldn't have been.
Yeah, I mean that was like, I can't believe that happened. I mean, so I think that was really a surprising result. And if that went your way, that would have done it, you know. We also talked back in week, what was it? I want to say it was week 12. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend. Remember the Bengals pick? You changed it to Browns on the weekly pick'em thing, but we didn't change it on the podcast. If we did an emergency podcast and we changed that pick, you would have won the competition.
Yeah.
It's these little things. It's the little things.
Yeah.
In your heart, though, you picked the Browns. You could say that you won this competition if you want.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck you. Because the only reason is because I said if AJ Green is playing, I will pick the Bengals. If not, I don't see much reason for me to.
Right. I
made that pick on the assumption that AJ Green was playing. AJ Green did not play. Browns won.
It's the problem with with recording so early in the week that we don't know. All the information that comes out ends up being contrary to what ends up being the case. That at the time when we recorded it, the reports
and
were
that
out.
was like Thanksgiving weekend, so we probably couldn't have put a podcast together. We might have. I don't know.
Well, I think once Friday came and Saturday came, that there was more reports out that the Adrian Green was not going to play. But as of Tuesday, you had a report from ESPN saying that, they totally expect him to play. The fact that they even said that they expect to play, that's usually like, they made it seem so confident that he was going to play. And then I was just like, LOL, nope.
Yeah, that's gonna carry some salt for me, I think, for a while.
It's all right. Now, listen, you had a hell of a season, and I think that you did, in despite it not being on the podcast, you did change your pick, and I think you did win the pick competition. So I'll give it to you.
Aaron Rodgers fucked me over. ESPN fucked me over. Putting my faith in the Giants fucked me over.
That's true. The Giants. Oh man.
No, I'm not. I don't care. I'm fine with us essentially tying.
Yeah.
You winning by points technically.
Technically. I think you have a lot to be proud of. It was a fun battle, and I think that it's
with how wild a lot of the season was, I will accept how I did.
Yeah, I thought I think you improved your record, or I thought no,
both of us had worse records
this year. Well,
this year, but still under 100 losses for both of us.
Yeah, exactly, and it was, I think that we both had a good year overall. The beginning obviously was difficult because we were trying to figure out the teams and stuff, but I think we did good. Let's break down the team picks. And this one was a tight one too. I ended up having 12 teams that I guess the term would be outpicked you on.
Yep.
And you had 11 teams that you outpicked me on.
Damn it. I was hoping I could win this one and then say guess we gotta do a tiebreaker.
Right. Nine ties overall. Where we had the same record for 9 teams. So your team, your superstar team, and I think compared to my list, you would kick my ass in the playoffs if you had to pick roster items from either of these groups here. It was, you had the Chargers. 13-3 versus 10-6. Seattle 13-3 with. I was 11-5. Kansas City 12-4. I was 11-5. Saints 12-4. I was 9-7. Ravens 11-5, 9-7. Oakland 11-5, 10-6.
You trusted Oakland too much.
That one defer was the Dolphins game in week 3. I was like, the Raiders will win this game.
That's fair.
But then I had no idea. I was like, oh.
You had no idea that the Dolphins were swimming in mediocrity at that point.
Right, exactly. And Buffalo 10-6. I was 9-7. Washington 10-6. I was 9-7. Atlanta, you went 9-7. I went 8-8. And then the last two here, Titans 7-9, and then I was 6-10. And for the Steelers, you went 6-9-1, and I went 5-10-1, and that was my worst team. I ultimately, it was all said and done.
The Steelers.
The Steelers, yeah.
Wow, I wonder what my worst team is. Probably, I'm gonna say either the Jaguars or the Titans was my worst team.
Yeah, so let's jump to mine now. I had. Yep. The Bengals, I went 13-3. You went 12-4. The Cardinals, 11-5, 10-6. The Texans, 11-5 versus 10-6. The Patriots, I went 11-5. You went 8-8. I think that was because you kept on wanting the Patriots to lose.
Yeah,
it didn't end up going away, but that's okay.
You know what? I have zero regrets.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I totally understandable. The Giants, 11-5, and you went 9-7. The Jets, 11-5, you went 10-6. 49ers, 11-5, you went 10-6. Tampa Bay, I went 11-5, you went 10-6. The Browns, 10-5-1 for me, 7-8-1 for you.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
It
matched their record, I guess.
There you go. Fair enough. I was actually surprised when I ended up getting to that because I was like, I felt like you did go with the Browns more often, uh, at least down the stretch, I guess. But I think because at that point,
Towards the end, I did. I was still doubtful of them at the start of the season.
yeah. I Miami. I went 9-7. You went 8-8. The Eagles 9-7 for me, 7-9 for you, and then your worst team was the Jacksonville Jaguars. I went 6-10 with them. You went 5-11.
Nice.
So unfortunate.
Thanks, Jaguars.
Just after all I did for you. We tied on the Rams at 14-2. That was both of our best. That was our best team was the Rams.
Nice.
14-2. The Vikings 12-3-1. The Bears we both tied on 12-4. The Broncos 10-6.
Also their record.
Yeah. Broncos 10-6, Colts 10-6. That was also I think the Colts record. Packers 9-6-1, Lions 9-7, Dallas 8-8, and the Carolina Panthers 6-10. So there you go. That was our teams, and the Team Chaos standings. I finished 8-9, and you finished 9-8.
9-8, almost, Chris.
Yeah.
A 10-7.
That's
Team Chaos.
That's something that you really should take pride on. It's a Team Chaos.
Yeah, no, the fact that I got 9 of my Team Chaoses right, I will wear on my lapel. What about our locks? Because we sucked on those.
Yeah, yeah. The I went 12-5, and you went 10-7.
Shit.
Yeah, I had a 2-game or. I had what was it? I had like in the middle of everything. I had like a 6-game guarantee streak from like week 6 to week 11, and then like faltered maybe like once or twice after that. But then for you had you started gaining momentum near the end. You got the Bears pick, you got the Browns pick, but then the Packers happened.
Yeah,
that was what hurt it. But going back real quick to the Team Chaos though, what was the most impressive with yours was that you were 4-1 at one point.
Yeah,
you were 4-1.
I am the master of chaos.
And then you lost 3 in a row, but then you started getting them back again, and then you found your mojo in the Team Chaos picks again, and you had some masterful Team Chaoses near the end. Bears over Rams, Chargers over Chiefs, Seahawks over Chiefs.
Yeah.
That was
Seahawks over Chiefs.
That was
plus Jaguars over Patriots earlier in the season.
Yeah, exactly. There was some excellent picks.
Yeah, I went 9-8, and I went ballsy.
You did with those Team Chaos at the end.
I think my safest one was Ravens over Broncos.
Yes.
But with all the risks that I took with my other ones, I think that makes up for that.
Oh, for sure. I get that. I think that it really. You went all out and you deserved that winning record. I wish I was a part of me. I didn't want you to get it because I knew that you would end up tying me. But the idea of you getting double digits for Team Chaos, I'm sad that you did not end up getting that. But you had not 9-8 is not something to sneeze at. The Team Chaos to have that Team Chaos and wear it strong. That's awesome. So that's the team picks, and that's the pick standings as a whole. We now sit at 155, 99, which, by the way, if you noticed that there was an extra game in there from the last time I read those records, I fucked up and left a game out back in like week 12 that we both lost. I believe it was Steelers Broncos that I forgot to write in there.
Way to go.
So instead of us being at 98 losses, we're at 99 losses. So there you go. But we are, but we're gonna hold up our heads high. We did another nice year of picking, and now we go into the playoffs where things get tense. The 11-game field that me and you have been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Yep.
And you've been doing playoff picks longer than you've been doing regular season picks. So this is gonna be fun to do this with you for the first time.
I try not to pick these with my heart too much.
Yeah.
But the outcomes are also things that I legitimately see happening.
Yeah,
So,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We're gonna start out by just picking our wild card games. We're gonna give our look into our brackets after that, but we're gonna put our picks in now. I'm trying to stalemate a little bit longer to kind of really get my mind around the picks I'm choosing.
I wrote mine down, wrote my entire bracket down. I'm not going to change it.
Yeah, I think I'm locked in at this point too to who I have. Um, so with that being said, we're gonna start out with the Colts at the Texans, a battle of the AFC South yet again. These guys split the first. This split the first set of games for them this season. The Texans barely won it in overtime. That started off their win streak, and their win streak ended to Indianapolis in Houston.
That's kind of poetic.
It is poetic, and now for the third time this season, they're playing against each other. It's a battle of Andrew Luck. It's a battle of comeback of the year candidates all around. You got Andrew Luck, J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, all of them coming back from injuries from last year. Now all of them strong going into this year. I mean, I think what is just before we get to the pick, because we have a little bit extra time to talk about these games since we don't have a whole slate. What's one thing that you're looking for in this game with the Colts Texans?
I don't know. To see which one of these teams is is like, yeah, I don't know. Just to I guess just to see what these players can do, and what these teams can do with depleted players on each side of the ball, or on respective sides of the ball. Like I feel like Houston especially has such a shallow wide receiver pool, which they have Hopkins, who is arguably the best receiver in the NFL. Like you could have that as an argument, if not the best one of like top 3. But then beyond that, you have like no one. Demaryius Thomas and Will Fuller are both on IR. Kiki Kuti may not play, and if he does, he might not be at 100%. Where the Colts, the Colts too, like they're missing some. I thought they were like missing some. I can't think of player names because I don't follow the Colts that much, but like they don't have as much depth either in some regards.
In wide receiver, right? I think that I think the big question for me is going to be, can the Texans reach their peak again? Is my big question, because they reached their peak against the Titans and the Browns. Like they had that stretch of time where they just were dominating teams, and then they ran to the Colts, and they haven't really been the same team since. Because they played very closely with the Colts. They blew a lead against not against the Colts, against the Jets. They lost to the Eagles, and then they took care of business against the Jaguars. But I'm curious now, even with the offensive line they're not playing good, but they're healthy. I'm curious to see what they can do. The big matchup will be the Colts offensive line, which has been strong all year, with Andrew Luck not really taking a lot of sacks at all, versus one of the most dynamic pass rushing duos in J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. What that's going to end up doing. So I think that's going to be a fun battle to watch. Darius Leonard will be appearing in his first NFL playoff game. Of course, like we said, Deshaun Watson, who is used to the big stage, and that is going to be so exciting to see him in the playoffs for the first time. And I think a big help for the Texans too is they have Lamar Miller, and he's actually been important to the team because he actually does move the ball, and it kind of keeps the offense open when he's around. So we'll see what happens. What do you think is going to happen in this game? Your first pick.
With all of the with taking everything into account, with where these two teams currently are, I think that the team that has the edge in this game is the Indianapolis Colts. It is on the road, and the home atmosphere is going to be a factor for the Texans, I think. But The Colts are on such a hot streak. Andrew Luck is back. Frank Reich is doing some really cool things, and the Colts have dominated in their last few games.
Mm-hmm.
And like especially since shutting out the Cowboys a few weeks ago, the Colts have been playing really well, and I think can be serious playoff contenders throughout this run. So I'm gonna do my first pick. The Colts upset the Titans.
Texans.
Indy.
You said Titans. They upset Titans.
Texans. Chris, you should know me by now. I mix up the Texans and Titans all the damn time.
The Texans. I really think Deshaun Watson is going to make this a great game. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to make it a great game. I think the defensive front for the Texans has been great, but the secondary worries me. The offensive line worries me, and I just think the Colts, with how hot they've been, their only loss has been to the Jaguars defense, whose only good game was against the Colts. And I don't see the Texans having that kind of game. I think it's going to be very tight. I'm going to go with Indianapolis though. I like the Colts to get the victory and go to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes. It just seems like they have their number right now, and they really could have had home field advantage if they let the Texans tie with them. They would have had the home field advantage for this matchup.
That's kind of crazy.
So, that's what it just shows, like any little thing for this NFL season that could have completely shifted it. But I think that they will take that into account, beat the Texans, and move forward. Texans, good season, but it's just, I think they haven't shown me enough down the stretch for me to really feel confident in them at this point. With that being said, let's move on to the Saturday night game on Fox between Seattle Seahawks and the Dallas Cowboys. Another playoff game in Dallas for the boys. And the big thing about this game is that it seems like a matchup between teams that are really similar to one another, and that's been the talking point all week. What's a key member of either of these teams that you're going to be looking out for this game, Go Cubs?
For the Seahawks, it's going to be Russell Wilson because is incredible. And I think no matter, like, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Seahawks, or like people thought it would be, and Russell Wilson, among other players on the team, have done a fantastic job in keeping them. On the other side of the ball, we have the two major offensive weapons on the Cowboys in Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper. And I think Elliott's going to play a bigger factor in this game. But both teams have a lot to play for, and I think a lot to prove.
Yeah, I think about the defensive side of the ball with this game, and both of my attention just goes to the linebackers. I mean, first with the Seahawks, Bobby Wagner had yet another incredible season. And he just continues to be like he's left over from the Legion of the Boom era, but it's so important that they kept him this season because he's really what makes this Seahawks team like keep them going. And he just especially down the stretch here, he's just had big game after big game, and he plays a huge part in both special teams and in stuff in the run, and even taking some interceptions in for touchdowns. Like he's just had such an impact all around for this defense. And then on the other side, the Cowboys have Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, who that's one of the best young linebacking duos in the league right there. And they've been able to turn this Cowboys defense into something that's most teams don't want to face. And in the past, you've seen this Cowboys defense like elevated to a point where they don't have the talent, but they play like well enough to play against like good teams. But they now have the talent, and with those two leading the way, it's a tough task to ask teams to do much against them. And they did play a little bit against the Giants, and the Giants, of course, still scored 35 points on them of all teams. So we'll see how the Seahawks fare. But I think it might end up being a low scoring game, especially since it's in Dallas. What do you think is going to happen in this game? Go Cubs!
This was the second hardest game for me to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't put a ton of thought into it, unlike the other one, because with this game, whoever wins, I think, is going to lose in the next round.
Yeah.
No matter who wins the other game.
Mm-hmm.
With the hardest one, I was also ahead, and definitely cared more about that one. But with this one, the Cowboys, I'm going to take the Cowboys into consideration for a second.
Oh, so you think the Cowboys will be better in this one?
Let me finish my statement.
Okay.
So the Cowboys have won this season against the Giants twice, the Lions,
mm-hmm.
the Jaguars,
mm-hmm.
The Redskins twice,
mm-hmm.
The early Eagles once,
mm-hmm.
and the late Eagles once. I'm going to separate those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Buccaneers and the Saints are the Cowboys' wins this season.
Okay.
The Saints and the late Eagles are really the only wins of note for that team. Yeah, they destroyed the Saints, but they got shut out to the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And they, even with just Zeke being rested, they only beat the Giants by 1 point.
Okay.
I don't think that they have shown me enough to be able to beat the Seahawks again. I know I just went off on the Seahawks for not playing close to the Cardinals, and I know that the Seahawks obviously played better at home, but I think that overall the Seahawks will do better than the Cowboys. I'm going to go with the Seahawks with Seattle.
Yeah, this was a tough one. I think about I already said that everyone's saying how similar these two teams are, and where I don't think that they're similar, and I think one team has an advantage, is at one of the most important positions on a team, and that's the quarterback. I think that Russell Wilson has been playing at such a big level, has played, and my biggest hesitation with this game is that the Seahawks have not played as well on the road as they do at home, which is most teams, but especially so with the Seahawks.
Oh yeah.
And to go into Dallas, where Dallas has been performing at a better level, it's their more comfortable venue, and they usually, that's where they do end up dominating teams. This is of course also a regular season rematch. The Seahawks beat the Cowboys pretty nicely in Seattle,
but also earlier in the season,
and much earlier in the season without Amari Cooper.
Much earlier in the season, Amari Cooper wasn't part of the team,
and Leighton Vander Esch was, I believe, on the bench at that point.
Yeah, and they hadn't fired their whatever coach yet.
I don't even know if they did fire a head. No, they did.
Their O-line coach. I think.
Their offensive line coach, which that was a random one. But I have to go Seattle. I don't want to put enough faith in Dak Prescott right now. I can't.
Yeah, that's another big thing. Wilson and the rest of Wilson's offense bring it up. Dak drags the other two down, dude.
Yeah.
Dak is a negative aspect for the Cowboys, and I think that if your quarterback is that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Seattle.
He's had some good games, but he's had some rough games this season. I feel like Russell Wilson, for the most part, is the strongest aspect of this offense, and luckily for him right now, that this offense has been the strongest that he's had in a while, where the offensive line is not burying him, and that his wide receivers are actually good this year. Tyler Lockett, and along with Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett and David Moore, who's dude out of nowhere, but he's playing outstanding.
And they have like one of the best rush games in the league.
Yeah,
on top of
this
that,
was a matchup between the rushing champion and the number one rushing offense, and the rushing champion has won the last two playoff matchups against a number one rushing offense. But I'm gonna go with the rushing offense in this one. I do like Seattle. It's a tough one, but gotta go with it.
Seeing the Cowboys get embarrassed in the playoffs too is another positive.
Yes, there you go. Next up, the toughest game I think for both of us by a land shot, and it's gonna be the most exciting game. I'm really excited about it. It's the Chargers at Ravens. It's a rematch of just a game that we just saw a few weeks ago on a Saturday night, where the Ravens went into Los Angeles, and it was a close game throughout, but then the Ravens just blew the doors off with a fumble return for a touchdown, and just it all went to hell in the handbasket for Chargers. But the Ravens now, even though they're hosting this game, the Chargers have played great on the road this year. And there's a chance that Hunter Henry, their star tight end, comes back for this game after tearing his ACL back in May. How insane of a freaking development is that? But the Ravens had the Chargers number in that game. So what do you think? I'm trying to ask different questions each time. What do you think is the keys to win for both teams in this one? Go Cubs.
Beat the fucking other team.
Okay. Could we get...
No,
you gotta get a hashtag analysis.
I came off strong on that one, but like both sides of the ball for both of these teams are so good that that's literally just what they need to do. The Chargers need to... All right, here. I have an answer. The Chargers need to score when they're in the end zone.
Yeah.
Or when they're at the red zone. I hope that it counts as a score when they're in the end zone. Otherwise, it's a safety. Yeah, the Chargers need to score when they're in the red zone, because the Ravens are going to be running the clock so much, running the ball, that the Chargers aren't going to get enough time to play how they probably want to.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens are going to need to find a way to do something with their offense that is different than what the Chargers just saw a couple weeks ago. Because the Chargers have already seen it. They know what the Ravens' offense is like, and if they can figure their way around it, or the Chargers are going to have an easier time figuring their way around it and stopping that great run that they have. So the Ravens need to do something different.
Yeah,
run the ball because that's what they're good at, but something else that can surprise the Chargers and give the Ravens that edge that they desire. What do you think they need to do?
Yeah, so I'll take the defensive side. I think with the Ravens defense, the biggest thing is like I talked about earlier with the Browns game, they need to lock up the wide receivers. Phillip Rivers has a lot of weapons, and he's gonna have even more weapons if Hunter Henry plays. So you have to be able to try to lock down as many people as possible. You cannot let these weapons out early, like go out and in the open. You need to play more man to man. You need to make sure that someone is on the ball at all costs. You cannot let these guys get away with these long passes down the field, and keep getting pressure on Phillip Rivers. The offensive line has not been good for the Chargers the past few weeks. It's been hurting them. It's actually hurt Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon has been getting injured the past few weeks. Luckily, he should be okay to play in this game, but the Ravens, they need to take full advantage of getting after Phillip Rivers. And if you can lock down those receivers long enough, you could get to Phillip Rivers, get the sack, and force them to punt. Now, as for the Chargers defense, you need to make sure that Lamar Jackson does not have any open holes to fall through. You need to cover up everyone. You need to
every single hole in your defense.
Basically, you have to make sure that you can't keep blitzing him, because if you keep blitzing him, at some point he's going to find a hole. So what you gotta do is you just have to be able to just cover up. Yeah, you have to get like linebackers covering up the holes where he would gain like 10 or 15 yards. Like, you just need to be able to watch where those open holes may start opening and then get a player on there as soon as possible. So just don't go after him, don't blitz him, but at least stay back a little bit, see where the hole might be, and just stop him from advancing the ball any farther than beyond the line of scrimmage as much as possible. And, and the big thing, I'll just to add to your point about the Ravens offense, he's probably gonna throw the ball a lot more in this game if the Chargers are gonna get used to the run, which is gonna be a test for him. But he's proven that he can throw the ball. I think there's a lot of unnecessary analysis out there that being like, oh, he can only run. Well, he's throwing some nice balls too. So we'll see. The big thing is going to be if the wide receivers can catch it, though. His receivers have not been that great this year, so he's got to adjust to it. All right, moment of truth. Who are you going with, Go Cubs?
After much thought and deliberation, I think that with their advantage and with the overall the overall what do I want to call it, ability and domination that both sides of the ball seem to have, and so far this has described both teams, I'm going to say the Baltimore Ravens will win this game. I think the home field advantage is going to be significant. I know the Chargers play better on the road, but okay, thank you, Google Home. I don't know if the fact that it is a playoff home game, I think, is going to be really significant for the Ravens and Ravens fans. That along with the defense shutting down the Chargers when they were in LA, and the offense doing such weird things that it's hard for people to follow. I think that will bode well for the Ravens.
Yeah, and
I know this is where I know who you're going to pick, and I know this is going to be the only one we differ on this week.
Are you sure about that?
Oh? Because
I actually am going to go with the Ravens, because...
Okay. All right, I'm actually surprised just knowing you as a person.
Because I've been going with the whole 3-week thing, which I didn't bring up when we were talking about the whole we're talking about the analysis for these teams. The Chargers getting the chance to play the Ravens twice in the last 3 weeks. It's a huge advantage. It's their ability to game plan against the Ravens. Is going to be great for them. But what has really worried me about the last few weeks for them, even though they came off an outstanding win against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, they have just such a great road record. The big thing for me is the offensive line, and it worries me a lot. Hunter Henry being back might help with the blocking.
But do you know that Henry's going to be?
Well, that's the thing, and I was hoping that we'd get something more today in terms of news.
Yeah.
There was not really much in terms of Hunter Henry's availability. If I knew for sure that he was playing, would I lean the other way? Maybe, but there is a chance right now that with everything still up in the air and a great potential for him to not play, I gotta go with the Ravens. And I think because they're a completely different team with Lamar Jackson. They just have completely changed everything. It just seems like they're an impossible out. And I like that the Ravens have just done something different where it may take more than just 3 weeks to kind of figure out what the fuck to do with it. So I'm going Ravens. I know that probably disappoints you a little bit because we could have had a
No,
battle.
no, I'm glad that I'm not insane.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
It was a really tough pick. I have to go with the Ravens, just knowing the information that I have right now. It's not, but it's such a toss-up game that who the fuck knows what will happen on Sunday. Um, so I'm gonna go Ravens. I just like their overall talent more right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Look, like I said, two paths.
yeah,
Two paths.
two pounds.
Two paths.
And finally, I think the least toss up of a game for this weekend, but a game that I do think probably just to your not to your enjoyment, go Cubs, that this is going to be a close game. Um, and it's the Eagles going to the Bears only a few days after the 30th anniversary of the Fog Bowl between these two teams. Now the Eagles, Nick Foles is healthy. We know that he's gonna be playing this week. So Nick Foles and the Magic Eagles, who somehow made the playoffs even despite the odds, now go up against Mitchell Trubisky and this dynamic offense and this even more dynamic and tough defense.
Yeah.
They have to beat a juggernaut, but they've done it before.
They have.
And so what? So since from the Bears fan perspective, what? And you could just talk about Nick Foles, but if there's something else that worries you about this team, about this Eagles team, what would you say worries you the most?
It's literally just Nick Foles. The thing about the Bears this season is that the Bears have been so consistent throughout the entire season. Like when our defense has been solid, even when Khalil Mack isn't on the field, defense still is able to stop offenses pretty damn well. That's on the defensive side of the ball. I need to find, as I'm like trying to think of more things, there's a specific graphic that I want to share that the Bears shared today. The offense, Trubisky was out a couple games, yeah. Offense was still able to play decently with a weird fuck up against the Giants, granted. But when Trubisky has been out, Trubisky has been out, the Bears have still been able to be consistent even when some of the receivers haven't been there.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Robinson has been out a couple times this season to injury. I think Taylor Gabriel as well. Not Gabriel, Miller. Miller's been out a couple times. But even if like we just have two of them, offense is still consistent with their production.
Right.
Our two running backs, Jordan Howard, third season in a row with 1,000 yards rushing. Tariq Cohen is the human joystick.
Yeah.
He can move anywhere, whenever he wants. Momentum, and our punting is better than our kicking, but Cody Parkey's been okay recently.
Yeah, well,
kind of.
I mean, the kick in Minnesota was rough, but
he kicks better with more wind.
Okay, that I don't know how that makes sense, but I'm here for it. All right,
I'm joking. But that being said, the Bears are like. Would you agree with me that the Bears have been a pretty consistent team, and we've only ever lost by one score?
The only game that worried me at least a little bit was the Giants game, but that was with Chase Daniel at quarterback. So
that was Chase Daniel.
So that
which the game would have been closer had it not been for 2 interceptions by one person.
Exactly. So
yeah. Bears defense, by the way, number 1 in takeaways. Have the lowest passer rating facing the defense in the NFL. They have the lowest or the highest 3 and out percentage in the NFL, and they allow the lowest points per game in the NFL at 17 points. That talk about consistency on the Bears side.
Yeah.
The Eagles have been up and down with injuries, especially at their running back position this season. Like Jay Ajayi, remember that name?
Yes.
At the start of the season was like everyone was expecting him to be super good. Corey Clement now make way for Josh Adams and like this other person that I don't even remember.
Wendell Smallwood.
Wendell Smallwood has had some stuff too. Was there one more?
There is
Josh
probably.
Adams kind of like Josh Adams eventually like took the reins.
Yeah.
But Carson Wentz wasn't playing well for most of the season. Now Nick Foles is in, and Nick Foles is a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, and is going to be a starter somewhere next year.
Yes.
But they haven't been as consistent as the Bears have been, except for Nick Foles, which is why Nick Foles I'm worried about. We can stop the run game. Not worried about that. With Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara at full health, he's one of our cornerbacks. Yeah. With them at full health, they're going to be good against the wide receivers. We're gonna make Alshon Jeffrey eat his fucking words, and the Bears are going to win this football game.
Yeah, the big thing I think for the Eagles that they want to win is they're going to need to get the pass rush going, and down the stretch it's been great. I mean, Fletcher Cox, he's been doing well. You have these guys up front, that are starting to get pressure like we expected them to. This is supposed to be a deep defensive line, and earlier in the year it was just not there, and it's starting to get there again. So the defensive line is getting good again, and Nick Foles has been playing outstanding football and had 25 straight completions against the Redskins. And the one thing with Nick Foles is that he plays so well against the blitz. If you put a blitz against him, he's gonna be able to get the ball out and get it to a receiver. So that's the big thing with Nick Foles and what he can do. I love that this can be a really close game, but I do think the Bears take care of business. It would not surprise me if this is heavily in the Bears' favor in this game, but I think it will be close enough because Doug Peterson and Nick Foles as a duo will wreak havoc for at least maybe 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter will be a breeze for the Bears. They'll take care of business when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That being said, can I talk about the Bears just real quick?
Sure. I feel like you just
a little bit more.
I feel like you
a little bit more than I already have.
I feel like you described our entire podcast this season. No, it's okay. I'm kidding.
You think can I talk about the Bears more?
No, it's totally fine. Go ahead.
Because this team, dude, I was the fact that they played so well and against so many good teams, it was amazing to me. And I'm getting a little bit of satisfaction just from the fact that no one that I talked to, that I know in real life, saying, "Hey, the Bears are going to be good this season," believed me before the season started.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily blame them because we haven't been to the playoffs since 2010. But this is going to be a really good. This was a really good year for the Bears, and no matter what happens, and I see much more in this postseason for them, not just this game. The Bears are going to be a hard team to beat, I think, and especially and not that these mean a ton, but the fact that a ton of websites have the Bears ranked as number 2 in their power rankings is wild to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope for this team going forward, and I think about the just what happened last year where the Eagles were last to first and winning the Super Bowl. It's possible with this Bears team, and I think it's surprising to see the turnaround, and a lot of credit I think goes to Matt Nagy and what he's done with this team. Really quick story before we move on to our Super Bowl stuff. There's a story that came out about how Matt Nagy, he's part of the Andy Reid coaching tree, as we know. He was a coaching intern with Andy Reid when he was with the Eagles, and so Matt Nagy for a short period of time was a coaching intern. And at one point, Donovan McNabb, who was the starting quarterback at the time, he was they didn't really want to put him out there, and the backup quarterback at the time it was during the preseason, and Donovan McNabb, they didn't really want to put him out there for the preseason, and the backup quarterback was injured, and so they had the third string quarterback available, but he kind of they didn't really want to wear him out in the preseason game, and so they had Matt Nagy as a coaching intern come out as in a helmet and the red shirt and throw the ball around at practice, and he was going to get some time during the preseason game, but then the NFL shot that down because they didn't want coaches being players, because it's kind of like taking advantage of the roster spots and stuff available. So Matt Nagy never got a chance to play quarterback for the Eagles, but he came very damn close in the preseason to doing so. And as he began his coaching career, so it's just a fun little story to ease you into
also,
Eagles Bears in that matchup.
Underlooked, maybe not, matchup between this game is going to be Chris Long versus Kyle Long.
Oh yeah, you got the brothers. I like it.
And usually brothers playing the same side of the ball, so that you don't get this type of matchup, like Peyton and Eli, both quarterbacks, JJ and TJ, both defensive players.
Yeah.
Kyle's on offense, Chris is on defense. Those two are going to be going at it, no doubt.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
On their father's birthday.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I already didn't know that.
Howie Long's birthday is Sunday.
that's wonderful.
He's gonna have one kid really happy and one kid devastated.
That's rough. But that's always fun, and I enjoy this kind of stories. I forgot to mention Chris Long in terms of the pass rush with the Eagles. He's had a pretty nice season, and Kyle Long.
Chris Long is a good guy.
He is a great guy, and Kyle Long coming back from injury. That
was great. That let Jordan Howard do what he did.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good day for the Long brothers. It's gonna be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's been a while. It's been, I think, since 2015 where I've really felt like, I mean, maybe outside of, maybe even further back, maybe even this is, but I think it's easy to say for me, since I became a football fan, that this is the most coveted, the most interesting, and the most fun wildcard weekend, at least looking forward to. That we've had in a while, because I could see any one of these teams winning the Super Bowl. I really do. It's such a deep, fun playoff field that I think is going to be. It's going to be really tough picking these games, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I'm really looking forward to it. Speaking of,
Team Cast is going to fall in a bunch of different directions, and I just hope it falls in the Bears.
Right. Let's do our brackets. I don't have my bracket in front of me, but I have a good idea of where I'm leading. So,
right, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'll start with the AFC because I care about it less. The Colts will face the Chiefs. I say the Chiefs win that game. Mm-hmm. The Ravens will face the Patriots, and the Ravens are going to win that game, making a Chiefs-Ravens AFC Championship match.
Mm-hmm.
And the offensive path is going to win out this side of the ball, or this side of the bracket, and the Chiefs move on to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
They defeat their Arrowhead Demons and are finally able to win a postseason game at home.
Okay.
And go all the way.
There you go.
On the other side of the ball, the Seahawks will face the Saints and lose, sending the Saints to the NFC Championship, and the Bears will go to LA and repeat their victory against that team, and advance to the NFC Championship. Between the Saints and the Bears, this was a hard one, and I firmly believe it's going to be one of these two teams. The Rams are talented, but I don't think that if the Rams don't beat the Bears, I don't think they would, or if the Rams beat the Bears, I don't know if they can beat the Saints. Even though it came close last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do firmly believe it's going to be either the Saints or the Bears that go to the Super Bowl. I would not be happy with myself if I did not pick the Bears, though, to go against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I am too excited about this team. I do legitimately think it can happen. I'm not just choosing it because go Bears, go Chicago.
No.
I do legitimately think it can happen, so I'm going to go with it.
Absolutely. Who's your winner?
So Bears Chiefs is my Super Bowl, of course, with the Bears winning.
Oh, you're going to have the Bears win. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we had the same picks in terms of the wild card. So the Colts face the Chiefs. I do also believe that the Chiefs are going to win. The Ravens versus the Patriots. I'm telling you, if the Colts win, for the first time in a while, I'm going to pick against the Patriots. I think, depending, of course, on
Hell yes.
what happens with the Ravens or the Chargers if something catastrophic happens to them. But I just think that those are two deeper teams to the Patriots, and it's hard for me to pick the Patriots in that game
Yeah.
and do it with
It
a
also
straight face.
that also feeds into my bold prediction from before the season started, saying that the Patriots wouldn't make the AFC
There
Championship.
you go, there you go, and
Which would be my biggest victory of the season, even if the Bears won the Super Bowl.
I listen. Anything that would keep the Patriots out of the conversation for a few weeks, it would be nice. The I am gonna pick the Ravens to move forward. So I also think it's gonna be a Ravens Chiefs matchup. I think the Ravens take care of business
Ooh,
against Kansas City
ooh,
and move
ooh,
on to the Super Bowl.
ooh.
And that
I would not be upset with that.
I just because I think that at some point that the defense will catch up with the Chiefs, and I think knowing the defense has been tough for the Chiefs this season overall, that the Ravens with their exotic smash mouth offense, remember that
Don't,
term?
don't, stop,
The
leave.
Titans. The Titans will win the Super Bowl somehow. No,
King Henry rises.
King Henry rises again. I will. No, But no, I just think that Lamar Jackson will end up giving the Chiefs some fits, even some more fits. I think it's gonna be a great game, but I think the Ravens could win that game. So I mean, maybe my mind will change when it gets to that point. Maybe the Chiefs like just are absolutely dominant against the Colts, so I'm like, I guess I have to pick it. But
Mahomes, but look, it's also the case of the season MVP makes it to the Super Bowl and loses. So
yeah,
it's gonna be Mahomes, and he's gonna lose in the Super Bowl.
right, there you go. But yeah, I have the Ravens, and then the NFC side. Yeah, similarly, I have the Seahawks going into New Orleans, but losing against the Saints. The Saints move forward, and the Bears, I do think, end up beating the Rams in the current state. The Bears move on, but in this world, unfortunately, the Bears' mere amazing run would have to come to an end. I do think that
That's okay.
the Saints end up
I can
prevailing
accept it.
in this one, and so it's almost the reverse where the defense goes through the AFC path and the offense goes through the NFC. For my
It is crazy to me that we have the same brackets up until the Super
there
Bowl.
you go, and
So if honestly, Bears Saints and Ravens Chiefs, if that is the Final Four, this will be my favorite Final Four I've ever watched.
yeah, I would look forward to it. It's a battle no matter what between offense and defense in these two games. It would be wonderful, and I would in picking this game, I always lean towards the team that has less Super Bowls, and I just think that the Saints with Drew Brees, he deserves I know he's not getting his MVP, so I think a second Super Bowl ring will suffice, and I'll give it to the New Orleans Saints in this one.
At least we know Drew Brees is going in the Hall.
I for sure. I feel like people always end up being like, well, did he get all the championships? Even though like if players can't fucking help the situation that they're in, if they're on a shitty team, they can still be great players.
Right. Take one.
Right. So the Saints, I really think that this is their opportunity here to get their second title. Potentially, Drew Brees walking to the sunset. I don't know if he would retire. But it may give the opportunity for Sean Payton to, after winning his second title with the Saints, maybe exploring a trade to another team and coaching another team. You never know. A lot of things can happen there. But
you know that Sean Payton went to the same high school as my mother.
Yes, you have told me that before.
Okay.
Cool. And didn't you say that? Didn't you say that like he was not nice or whatever or something?
Oh yeah, he was kind of a dick. Yeah.
Oh well. We know I'm okay with being in the world where we like Sean Payton as a coach right now.
Yeah.
We don't know him personally.
He doesn't have a scandal underneath him or anything, so
Oh, yeah, that's true.
that's
There is a scandal.
surprisingly a lot to ask for these
This that deflates this room. Oh, another scandal. Ah,
Yeah.
no.
All right. All right. I think Saints, Ravens for you, Bears, Chiefs for me. I could see any four of those teams, any combination of those four teams, making the Super Bowl, legitimately making the Super Bowl.
What was your mid-season Super Bowl pick? Do you remember?
It was Saints,
It was
Chiefs.
Saints Chiefs. Okay.
But with the Bears playing so well, I couldn't turn my back on them.
I had such a tough time picking between Ravens and Chargers, and if just so you know, I would have kept my Chargers Saints midseason pick if I ended up going with the Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I believe it.
But it was just it was just so difficult.
So much has changed since then, Chris. This has been a wild season.
It's been a wild season, and I really, it's just such a tight game, man. It upsets me, but I'm so excited for it. But it upsets me. But I'm glad that we also we agree on everything. We pretty much are on the same page, on this first weekend, and pretty much throughout the playoffs. If everything is rock chalk for us right now, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there you go. And that's your wild card and other prediction podcast for this week. Next week is our 50th episode of the MMG podcast.
Ooh.
And it will be our divisional preview. So we would have gone through all these games. We'll recap all of them, like we've done in the past, and we'll then go over all the divisional stuff and maybe some news. I'm sure that we will probably have a coaching hire by sometime next week. So we'll have something to talk about there. Oh, we did forget to talk about coaching and GM news, huh?
Oh yeah.
Do we want to do that real quick?
A quarter of the league is fucked.
Yeah.
So the teams that are looking for a new mastermind leader are the Packers and Browns, who both fired their head coach in the middle of the season.
Right.
The Jets, the Dolphins, the Bengals, that's 5 so far.
Yes.
Yes. The Broncos, the Cardinals, and the
Dolphins?
Bucks.
The Bucks.
Bucks.
There you
go. Bucks. I would say the most surprising one for me is actually going to be the Dolphins.
Yeah, the guy I guess would go.
I wasn't expecting, like, they had a decent season. Definitely not what they expected. I think more of that is because of Tannehill and just the general depth of players that the Dolphins have. Which isn't that great, all things considered.
Yeah.
Rather than the head coaching, but his nickname on the footballer's show was Mr. Beehole. Adam Gase.
God damn it.
So I guess he was kind of a butthole. I don't know. You can't say that on TV, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah, that was the one I was most surprised about. When it happened, it was Mike McCarthy was surprising to me, but now it makes sense.
Yeah. I the big thing, I think, in the not only the day of those firings, but since we've since we're recording on Thursday, and it's been a few days since the coaching news happened. The biggest takeaway so far has been now no one really wants to coach the Cardinals, and
no,
it's understandably so for a lot of reasons. And despite having the franchise quarterback in place, all these major candidates are turning it down because I think because Steve Keim is still in position for some reason, and this goes for the Jets too. They fire their coach, but they don't fire the general manager. And I just think for both franchises that what has been the biggest issue for them beyond the coaching. I mean, Todd Bowles was obviously bad with the coaching in this year. Steve Wilkes, not as much. He had like you can't really point to something like there's been maybe a few things here and there, but nothing. He hasn't been like a substantially bad all year that he deserves to be fired in year one. And
The team was just substantially bad.
exactly, and how does that not fall on Steve Keim, the general manager? It's
Yeah,
bizarre to me. He gets to
the
stay, and
Brown,
he's picking the
the
coach.
Browns should have cleaned house. And like when they got their new GM, should have gotten a new head coach too.
Right, and that's and it
But
ended up
yeah,
fucking them over
right.
to start this
So
year.
I think this is going to do the same thing for the Cardinals. The Cardinals have a lot to come back from, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I just don't understand. I don't understand the Cardinals and situation. The Jets. I mean, whatever. You know, Mike McCagnon got praised a few. I mean, well, both of them. Both of them have had moments in recent years where they were like, "Oh man, they're great GMs. We want these guys as general managers." But in recent times, it just has not been there. So I guess maybe these owners are just trying to cling on to any hope that they have left for these guys, that being like, you know what, they've done well in the past, maybe they'll do it again. I think that's part of the reason why, and I'm sure he's never going to be touched because he's just the crown jewel of the franchise. But John Elway, I mean, he's had one good quarterback in the last few years, and it was Peyton Manning falling right into his lap.
yeah,
And and beyond that, he's had some few nice free agent signings, and I think he deserves credit for bringing in guys like Cortland Sutton and Philip Lindsay. Like there's a good rookie core
oh
there,
for sure.
but there's other
But
overall talent. The biggest issue on your team has been the quarterback, and you have not solved the quarterback position.
you have not. Keenum may have seemed attractive, may not good, not good for your offense.
Right,
Was good for Minnesota, not good for you.
and
So
yeah,
I wonder if they will, if like this quarterback class is not nearly as deep as really even 2 years ago.
right.
Um, Last year's obviously was an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like it's not as deep as 2 years ago. Like Dwayne Haskins maybe is like one of two or three quarterbacks who will go in the first round.
Maybe, yeah, Donnie
Maybe,
Jones from Duke.
if that, yeah.
You know, like they're just random players. Um, you know, and I feel like overall, like the Bucks made the right decision. I think the Bucks are getting talent. I think Jason Licht as the general manager, I'm fine with them keeping him there because I think the talent has. They have drafted some nice young talent there. I think their
They
biggest
need to
concern.
fucking fix that defense though.
Not the secondary mainly because I think
Yeah.
the pass rush was great down the stretch. Um,
Flashback to Chris Conti getting
yeah,
stiff armed. That was a highlight of
completely destroyed. You know,
yeah.
you had,
It was a highlight of the year for
but
me.
you have such a deep wide receiver core, and you know, Peyton Barber had some moments, but you probably need to find a new running back. And I'm curious to
Ronald
see
Jones.
what
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to see where the freaking what they're gonna do with Jameis Winston. That's a storyline. I mean, they're saying right now they might stick with him for at least one more year,
Yeah,
but
or try to. I from what I heard, they were trying to find a head coach uh, who would be good for Winston.
try to fix him.
Yeah,
I mean,
and get him more in line.
right, and you know what? I get that. I understand because it's like he was a number one overall pick. You don't want the investment to kind of just fade away quickly here. You want at least one more year, but there is a risk there. So we'll see what they end up doing there. Bengals, I don't know what's going to happen with them without Marvin Lewis. This is going to
Yeah,
be a very interesting search to find the
the
guy.
Bengals will the Bengals will finish last in the AFC North again next year.
Yeah. I mean, they have
Like
talent though.
this is
There's talent there, but it's just like,
there is,
what is the,
but
what is the direction of the franchise? I do, considering how patient the owners are, maybe it's gonna be a good head coaching landing spot. So we'll see.
yeah,
But a lot of questions with them as well. And I think the Packers and Browns are still two of the more attractive jobs right now, with the talent on either side. Although I would be
yeah, I think that the next Browns head coach, whether it's I need to make this joke.
yes,
Uh, so the reason that Baker started doing, you know, why Baker started doing so well this
was
year?
because he was in the kitchen.
He was in the kitchens, yeah.
I feel like we made a joke from the moment that Freddie Kitchens
Have
got
we?
hired. Yes,
Have we?
I think I was the one that made that joke.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
You
yeah,
are
like
10 weeks late.
well, you know what? It still
It's
exists.
still, no, I know.
So,
That was
yeah,
really
hopefully they
funny,
keep Freddie
actually.
Kitchens around. Maybe as the head coach. I don't know. They may even just stick with Greg Williams. I don't know if that's the right move or not,
And I
but
don't think it is, but
yeah. But like I feel like this is my prediction. I think that the teams that are the any team that lands a head coach that was just fired, such as Vance Joseph or Adam Gase, and Mike McCarthy, who I think are the three that are interviewing the most right now, is going to have a less chance of success. I'm not going to say 100% that they will plummet and fail, but they will have a less chance of success than the teams that go for up and coming offensive or defensive coordinators.
yeah.
Like getting Josh McDaniels if he finally decides to leave New England, or the Rams OC, or someone like that, or Vic Fangio. As much as I hate the idea of him leaving us,
I mean, you look at the team, the coaches that are successful lately has been strong offensive, young coordinators rather, that
yeah.
have taken these teams and turned them
Matt
around.
Nagy, Sean McVay, Doug Peterson.
Right, Frank Reich. You have
Frank Reich.
I mean, he's not super young, but he's
but he's got that offensive mind, and
yeah.
is like relatively new to the head coaching thing.
Exactly. And I think that's, if I'm a team that is in great need, especially with young quarterback, there's a few young quarterbacks that are on the market right now for head coaches. That's who I'd be going for. Browns, Jets, looking at you.
There's more success in, like, if you have a young quarterback, find an offensive coordinator from a good offense.
Yeah.
And get them.
Cardinals too.
To be your head coach.
You have all those rookie quarterbacks that have potential. This is a gold mine for you guys. I almost said landmine. That's the exact opposite of what you want to be stepping in. But yeah, and one last thing. The general manager of the Raiders is now Mike Mayock, who's longtime NFL Network draft analyst. I right now, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's from TV, and he just transitioned." The dude works his ass off all year round, analyzing draft prospects, and that's literally what general managers and scouts do all year round. So it's not like he's having a huge job change. He's now just focusing on one team more so. This is the first move by the Raiders that I do genuinely like, and I might eat my words at some point with this Raiders team. But I've loved Mike Mayock, and I'm gonna miss him a lot during draft time because he's been someone I always leaned on for good draft commentary, and he was never always right. But really, whoever is, in this fucking industry,
no, of course not.
So this is one where I'm like, okay, good job, Raiders. This is a move that I'm at least optimistic on right now. It may go into a dumpster fire, but I'm optimistic on it right now. So good job. We'll see what happens later.
We'll see. Raiders are dumb.
The Raiders are a successful.
If you want to summarize this season, it's offense cool, good defense really cool. Raiders dumb.
Yeah, that's that almost made it to haiku status. I think you
almost.
I think you were.
I can turn it into haiku.
You want to give it one try before
offense. Good offense is cool. Good defense is cool. No, wait, that's
you're
a good defense is cooler.
You're at 9 syllables right now. You have
no. A good defense is cooler.
Good defense is cooler. Okay, yeah, okay.
That's 7.
Okay.
Raiders are dumb shit.
Well, on that note, So we got not much drama in the picks competition this week, but we're gonna have a fun, really exciting week of Wild Card weekend football. So I hope you all enjoy it, folks.
It's gonna be a great time.
I think Go comes to say everything that he needs to say with that haiku.
Yep.
So thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Be good to one another, be kind to one another, and we'll see you guys next time.
Tip your waitstaff.